All right, so a lot of times new construction gets looked at early on in the process, and a lot of buyers or agents might dismiss this. The problem is if you don't address it and you don't look at that option, that may start to eat at you over time, or eat at the buyer over time as a potential option. And unless you have a good understanding of how to deal with this process, which is very, very similar to existing homes, a buyer will go in to a model home with a model representative, and same issue as going directly to the listing agents. They're going to show them all the highlights, but not go after what may be the hidden things. I was just through a new construction, 2 new constructions a couple days ago. Same price point, very, very different quality in the builds. And so you want to just go, hey, new construction, it is an option if you're a buyer or there's a buyer that's looking in a specific price range where, let's say you're in Cottage Grove or looking in Lakeville or looking up in Northern Shoreview or wherever it might be. You hit that $350 price point, new construction is an option that's out there. And we, as agents, and avoid that sometimes and try to steer buyers. Well, you lose money right away on new construction. It's not as good of a value. Well, if you can build a brand spanking new home as what the existing is selling for, why is it not an option? It's something you want to look at. If you hit that 350 range and that's what they're looking at, go, hey, have you thought about new construction? Look at it as a possibility. Don't steer away from this conversation. So one of the big misnomers, it was great because I think we had Fieldstone in for one of the radio shows a while back, and he brought this up, and I never thought about it this way, which is, okay, so maybe there is a little premium for a new construction home, but you're not going to be replacing that furnace in 2 years. You're not going to have to do a new roof, siding repairs, water heater, appliances, repairing the flooring, all of that stuff, and then probably even more importantly, the energy savings. The difference in energy costs between 10 years ago and today, it's amazing with how much more these homes are becoming energy efficient. So that perceived premium, you start to factor those things in there. I mean, my house, I have a 1964 home. I've had it for 4 years. I've got well over $10,000 into it on things that I've had to do that have broken down in that period of time. So, it's that little extra. There is something extra for that. Let's see. I talked about going into the model home and, just falling for becoming the victim of that, new construction realtor that's sitting there at the desk. Oh, let me show you all the different plans, which is like 3 of them. And they have the gimmicks. Oh, we'll finish the basement at no cost. You buy in the next 2 months. It's our winter special. We'll finish the basement. Look at the numbers. It's not at no cost. It's all factored in there. The national builders are known for these gimmicky campaigns to get people to sign the dotted line. You really want to be careful too. Don't buy that cookie cutter. Make sure that, bear with me here. So the reason I use this picture is you can see all these homes that are built over here, right? Well, those homes might be 1 or 2, 3 years old, and they keep building over here. Well, what happens when you need to move and you need to sell this house? if you're just a cookie cutter in that row, they're gonna look at the new construction before they ever look at you. So when shopping new construction, you wanna make sure that you pick something that's unique. Whether it's you're the bigger lot, you're at the end of the cul-de-sac, you're up on the hill, you're by the water, you're on the pond, you're on the park, you're whatever. Even if there's a little premium for that lot, now you have value over that row house, one after another, after another, after another, that's just the same. Because they're gonna have a hard time selling if there's more than a couple of those that are for sale at any given time, especially with the other new construction. So, find something that's not the cookie cutter lot and have a house that's not the cookie cutter house. Now, don't get crazy with the design stuff when you're doing it, but have some unique things. Go into some of those other homes in the neighborhood and find their faults and fix them. A good builder isn't going to upcharge you for moving walls around unless there's some significant change. But you will not find that as the same with the national builders. They have a couple designs, and I actually brought a national builder. Okay, we have, this is one house with like 5 different exteriors or something like that, but the floor plan is generally the same, and you can't really alter off of that. There are some great local custom builders. You want to find somebody though that's probably doing between 25, 50-ish homes a year, because they're buying the good products in enough volume where they don't end up way overcharging for it, and they are doing enough that they have good relationships with different contractors, and they can keep everybody employed by doing that. They can keep the costs down. We're going to talk a little bit at the end about costs between different builders. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about not getting upcharged for the floor plan changes unless you're adding square footage. Look at a few different model homes from each builder just to get an idea of what kind of quality are they putting out. Look at different stages of the build. This is a must. Don't just go in to a finished model home and sign a contract. Try to get out, if you can, to something that's being framed, or a sheetrock stage, or to be able to see what are the materials that are behind those walls. Preferably rough-in stage. So sheathing's up, mechanicals are in, windows are in. You can kind of see how well did they seal around the windows. Are they using PEX or copper? Are they using, and ask them what type of insulation as well might they be putting in. So when you're there at the rough-in stage, this is a way where you can see quality. All right, so we have like just a straight 2x10. I mean, this is the way they were building homes going back, almost 100 years. I was in a house the other day. They had 2x10s for their joists, brand new construction. It's the cheapest possible way you can go. Okay, then you have next is the laminated beam. So that's basically like a plywood, very thick plies.
What was the price point of the home that you saw that had the?
$355. Yep, national builder. Laminated beam, so that's like plywood. Engineered joists, that's what I look for. What's really nice about those is now you can run all the mechanicals up inside that joist, so that you can have that increased headroom in the basement. It also absorbs noise better between floors, and it's easier if you wanted to insulate between floors. Just kind of get it all in there. Then you have the basically an engineered I-beam. I've seen one of the new constructions I was in a couple days ago. That's what they were using. I think, I have not seen that before. I think it's just a hand frame joist is what they ended up doing with that. But so this is typically what you're going to see with a nicer build, the engineered and the laminated beams. So, when I walk down into the basement, that's one of the first things I'm going to look at. I look up to see what they're using there. What are they using for the sheathing? Okay, so sheathing, that's the exterior of the home before you get to the siding. You don't see plywood much. Definitely not interior plywood, but the most common today is the OSB, which is basically like a wafer board. What I don't want to see is like the particle board, the buffalo board. We've all seen that. It's like a very soft, like if you go into garages, unfinished garages, and you can basically just put your finger right through it. It's like a sponge. If that gets wet, just sucks it up and deteriorates. Or hardboard. Don't see much of that. But yeah, this is really the cheap, and I still see people using that particle board.
I saw one out in Maplewood, walking it was a day off Sunday, walk in, you look at their wall, and they hadn't capped off the threshold, or what is it, the sill. So you're seeing interior, you've got your sheetrock, then you got your wall studs, exterior sheetrock. Yeah. They're using an exterior gypsum, and that's a real thing.
I've seen
scary.
wow.
You can break into it with like a cardboard cutter.
I mean, I've seen, that cement board. Like if they're gonna do stone or something on the outside, they'll have the cement board. But yeah, I've never seen sheetrock.
Sheetrock.
Wow.
Yeah, that was back in 2006.
What type of foundation are they using? Obviously rubble and brick. These are very old styles that you're not gonna see in new construction. But poured foundation or concrete block, most everybody now is going poured. You can just make a much stronger wall, by reinforcing it with rebar, which the old poured foundations, what was that, back in the 30s?
1907 to about 1918.
Okay, yeah, they weren't reinforcing those, and so they had the problems of bowing in. Well, now with the new poured foundations, they're fully reinforced. So I've used to be a fan of block, but they've just become so much better. And because block, even if you core fill it, because of those seams, can still crack.
Seen any wood foundations in new construction?
I haven't, no, not recently, but there is that period of time between the mid 80s up to the very early 2000s of the wood foundations. I'll tell you, it's, obviously they bring pause when you see them, and they're built with the best, marine grade boards. Well, how often have we had to replace marine plywood on our boats, right?
Yeah.
It goes bad. So
I've seen those. And we sold those when I was in building materials at Menards back in the early 90s. They use a 0.60 retention. It's about twice as much CCA treatment as you have in normal green treated wood. But what happens, what I've seen from a practical standpoint, is every time there's a transaction and you've got one of those going, it just shuts it down. Mm-hmm. They do the inspection, they find the wood foundation, buyer backs out.
Yeah, nobody cares if it's fine.
Yeah,
Right.
it's all
You
perception.
don't know, you
Right,
don't
yeah.
know if that
Yeah.
day that it was treated properly, if, they've got a hangover and didn't do it right, and,
you want to get out, if possible, during the sheetrock stage as well. This is where you can check that insulation right after the rough in, to get an idea, how well did they insulate down by the foundation, insulate around the windows, doors, all that stuff. There are really three main forms of insulation being used today. So you have fiberglass, spray foam, and the blow-in. You know, a lot of times that's a crumpled up newspaper or shredded newspaper stuff. Personally, I like the spray foam because you get the tightest possible seal that you can. So if you see a builder that's doing that down by the rim joist, and once again, when you go downstairs and you look up where those joists are sitting, you know, did they just stuff fiberglass in there, or did they spray foam it? It just shows the quality they might be using. Another key is, you know, are they going cheap on the mechanicals, or are they really putting in quality stuff? Now, it was funny, because as I was putting this together, I didn't realize it at the time, but does anybody know what kind of furnace that actually is? What model? So that's a generic, I believe, train. Right? Imagine a little orange train, yeah. So probably that's actually manufactured by them, but I know, what is it, Amana, after the Amana furnaces become 1 year old in the warehouse, they pull off the Amana decal and throw the Goodman one on there, I think it is. So probably same for Train, right? They're just ripping their logos off, reselling them. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes you see just really cheap furnaces put in. So just be aware, what are the mechanicals? You know, are they using a, you know, energy efficient water heater, or is it just the one that's $500 at Menards, you know?
What is that, the Maytag on the right, is that good or bad?
Well, I was trying to just show that, you know, name brand versus off brand, you know. I've actually never seen a Maytag furnace out there.
Saw one today.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Read lots of reviews. Don't just go to page 1 and look at that one guy who complained and they were just being a jerk probably when everybody else is saying good things. You know, go down a few pages in Google and read, you know, from lots of different sources, not just one.
If people didn't do that, nobody would ever work with you.
That's for sure. Here's probably one of the biggest hang-ups that people have, and this is why you want to get out to the unfinished product. Because buyers can imagine the unfinished product as a clean slate, to let them see that. Because if you walk them through a model, they might just be like, I don't like that color of flooring on cabinetry, you know, but they go to another builder and it's set up exactly the way they want and they love it. Well, this might be the better quality builder using the better materials at the better price. This is all the same builder, actually. I use these photos, but that, you know, the builders can do many different styles. Don't get hung up on what's in that model. Go see their center that shows the different options that they have. The big key is, once again, what's the quality that they're putting into the construction of a home, and what's the quality of the materials that they're using. And I mentioned the other day about the one where the joists were the 2x10s. That's $355. That home that was just a couple miles away that was also like $350. The cheap one had that fiberboard drawers that was just stapled on the rollers, where the other house actually was custom dovetailed solid wood drawers, soft close, all of that, right? So focus more on the quality they're putting in and not on the style, because a good builder will be able to do any style. Yeah, so I mean, we see what's cheap. It's the same thing with new construction. It's just, you know, go out at different stages, tour a few models. It's not much different, you know. We'll sometimes go look at the same house a couple times. It's kind of the same thing, so.